everyone, a very warm welcome to the thorough newspaper analysis for 6th of December 2023. This entire video series, as you know, it's brought to you by LawSikho. So now let's quickly head to the agenda for today. First of all, for the editorial segment, we've taken up an article from Indian Express, and this essentially is in the context of an event that transpired during the Constitution Day celebration. So in this article, we're going to have a look at some of the facets of the history of making of Indian Constitution. And this discussion is going to be around a quotation which was given by the drafting committee chairperson, Dr. Bhim Rao Ambedkar. This is going to be super important because we're going to get answers to some of the potential MCQ questions that can feature in your exams on the subject of legal GK. Now, secondly, we're going to deal with the news updates for today. And lastly, we're going to wind up the TNA with an update from the Apex Court and an update coming from the Honorable High Court of Allahabad in the segment of legal news updates. So without further ado, let's start with this article, the title of which is in fact an interesting one. So it says, this quote means Constitution is not a mere lawyer's document. Its spirit, it is always the spirit of age. Let's understand the context of this article quickly. So marking the Constitution Day on 26th November, our President, Shrimati Draupadi Murmu, she unveiled a statue of Dr. Bhim Rao Ambedkar at the Supreme Court premises in New Delhi. Dr. Ambedkar, as we all know, was the chairperson of the drafting committee of the Constituent Assembly, which was responsible for framing the Constitution of India. This assembly, it adopted on this day, which is on 26th November in the year 1949, the Constitution of India. And this Constitution, our Constitution, the cherished document of our country and the entire legal philosophies contained in it, it came into effect on 26th January in 1950. So I'm sure there have been a couple of times when all of us we often get confused as to what is the date of enactment, adoption of the Constitution, and what is the date when the Constitution came into effect. So here, see, 26th November 1949, it is the date on which the Constitution was adopted, enacted, and given to themselves by the people of India. Whereas it came into force and came into effect on 26th Jan in 1950. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, he also remarked, Constitution is not a mere lawyer's document, it is a vehicle of life, and its spirit, it is always the spirit of age. So now let's understand what this particular quote means in terms of how the Constitution came to be adopted after months of deliberations and debate among the Indian leaders, and the absolute pioneering role that the chairperson of the drafting committee played in the process to ensure its relevance for generations to come. So what was the Constituent Assembly? The assembly was the body that this particular assembly, the body meant to draft the Constitution of India. It held its first session on 9th of December in 1946. This is also a prelims question. Initially, it had 389 members, again a prelims question. And if we have a look at the bifurcation of this number, we get 292 members. They were elected through the provincial legislative assemblies, while 93 members, they represented the Indian princely states, and the remaining 4 members, they represented the chief commissioners' provinces. Members, they were chosen by indirect election by the members of the provincial legislative assemblies. These were elected through the 1946 elections according to the scheme which was recommended by the Cabinet Mission of 1946. However, after the independence and the partition of India, the strength was reduced to this number, which is 299, which is again a prelims question. Now the assembly, it took over 3 years to draft the constitution, especially over 114 days considering the content of the draft alone. So, what was debated as part of the Constituent Assembly and the constitutional debates? Let's have a look at that. Fundamental issues such as the language of business of the Indian government, issues pertaining to citizenship, and the name of the country itself, they were debated. The drafting committee, chaired by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, it was one among the other 17 committees of the Constituent Assembly. Out of some 7,600 amendments which were tabled, this committee got rid of nearly 2,400 amendments while debating and deliberating the Constitution. Constitution as a living document, what was argued before the Assembly. As the drafting committee's head, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, he was crucial to the debates taking place, arguing for ideas that may have been missed or helping members conclusion. When it came to the nature of the Constitution and how amendments to it would be made in the future, there was a debate too. So, for instance, P.S. Deshmukh, who would go on to become the first Union Minister for Agriculture, he said in one such discussions that making it difficult to amend provisions of the Constitution, it was not advisable. So here I have a question. What do you think, is perceived so far as the Indian Constitution amendment procedure is concerned? Do we have a very rigid sort of a constitution which, provides for a very, very tedious procedure when it comes to amendment? Or do we have a flexible mechanism? Or do we have a mixed mechanism where it is a very fine balance of rigidity and of flexibility? And whatever your answer is, it would be great if you could, quote somebody who favored that line of reasoning. So, Mr. Deshmukh, he said, if we do not make it easy for amendments to be effected, the whole administration it might lead to and the whole constitution being rejected or not being accepted by future parliaments, and they're resorting to something much more drastic and radical. The idea that having amendments require a significant percentage of vote, let's take for instance two-thirds majority, it would make the constitution a document not in sync with the times and build a perception among the people that it is obsolete and not worth adhering to. This was also further said by him. But Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, he argued that making all amendments easily movable, it would make the document susceptible to changes on the whims and fancies and the caprice of the legislators and be against the interest of the states. So these were, you can say two arguments on the two spectrum. So he was favoring that, there should not be rigidity, while Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, he was saying that if we keep it way too flexible, then there's also a chance of, the power politics to play or take a stand and also to, dilute the essence of the constitution. So what Ambedkar argued, let's understand that. Ambedkar gave examples of the procedures for amendment in the Irish, in the Canadian, Australian, and other constitutions to make a point about how there was no one way of making amendments, but there was a common thread. I cite these facts in order to point out that in no country to which I have made reference, it is provided that the constitution should be amended by a simple majority, he said. In India's case, he suggested three options in the committee or from the committee. First is a set of articles that can be amended by a simple parliamentary majority. This is called the simple majority. Also, I would like to, reflect on this term which is called simple majority. So by simple majority, what we understand actually is 51%, which is to say like a majority of the number of members of the concerned house who are present and voting. So it is 51% simple majority of members present and voting. So he said that a set of articles that can be amended by a simple parliamentary majority. Then second set would be requiring a two-thirds majority, which is a special majority, and a few more that require a two-thirds majority, followed by a ratification by half of all states. So if you are familiar with the current article, which is Article 368, I'm sure you can draw a parallel here, because these two latter situations, which is a special majority and then ratification by the state, it is covered under clause 2 of Article 368. So this would depend on whether the articles they related to matters of the center or both the states and the center, because if the provision which is supposed to be amended, it has something to do with the federal structure, so then the ratification by half of the state would also come in. He further said that supposing, for instance, the Parliament has the power to make an alteration in Article 60 for extending its executive authority beyond the provisions or the limits which are contained in Article 60, then it would undoubtedly undermine or limit the executive authority of the states. We therefore thought that also was a fundamental matter and it ought to require to be ratified by the states. He further added, the purpose of a constitution, it is not merely to create the organs of the state, but to limit their authority. Why? Because if no limitation was imposed upon the authority of the organs, then there will be complete tyranny and complete oppression. The legislature may be free to frame any law, the executive may be free to take any decision, and the Supreme Court, it may be free to give any interpretation of the law. Thus, it would result in utter chaos. So this is how the current procedure of enactment of Amendment Act, the Constitutional Amendment Acts, it came about, and this is what the kind of debates that went before the Constituent Assembly. Now, with this, we proceed to the national news update segment for today. And with this, we proceed to the national news category, and this is the first update. India is re-elected to International Maritime Organization with the highest vote tally. In elections held at its assembly for the years 2024-2025, India was re-elected to the International Maritime Organization Council with the highest vote tally. India's re-election, it falls under the category of 10 states with the largest interest in international seaborne trade, alongside countries like Australia, Brazil, Canada, France, Germany, the Netherlands, Spain, Sweden, and the UAE. India secured the large-scale support of the international community at the International Maritime Organization for India to continue to serve the global maritime domain. The organization, it is the leading authority when it comes to regulating the marine industry. This industry, it supports the global trade, transportation, and all marine operations. The Council, on the other hand, it is the executive organ of the IMO and it is responsible under the Assembly for supervising the work of the organization. Between sessions of the Assembly, the Council, it performs the functions of the Assembly except that of making recommendations to the governments on maritime safety and pollution prevention. The Amrit Kal vision of 2047, it also set goals to strengthen India's global maritime presence. India ranks 49th in the 2023 World Digital Competitiveness Ranking. The International Institute for Management Development, it has unveiled its 2023 World Digital Competitiveness Ranking on Friday, revealing India's position to be 49th among 64 economies, according to the IMD's study. So, according to the study of IMD, India, it has made significant progress in terms of cyber knowledge, but it lacks on fronts like technology and future readiness. This index or ranking, it is a comprehensive assessment that provides insights into how nations they're navigating the digital landscape amid the rise of AI, which is artificial intelligence. This ranking it sheds light on crucial elements contributing to a nation's digital prowess, a quality gaining paramount importance. Why? Because technology it continues to reshape societies globally. According to the IMD, the United States it has reclaimed the top spot in this year's ranking, solidifying its position as the digital nation that actively integrates digital technologies, including AI, across governmental, corporate, and individual domains. The Netherlands it secured the second position, advancing four places, while Singapore, which is leading in the technology factor, it secured the third position. Indian Railways developed AI-based software which is called Gajraj. The purpose for this development is to avoid collisions. This is to roll out in all elephant corridors. So, in a bid to prevent train elephant collision, the railway minister for our country, who is Ashwini Vaishnav, he announced the development of Gajraj, an indigenous software which utilizes optical fiber cable to alert the locomotive pilot of any suspicious activity on or near rail tracks. The AI-based Gajraj software, it successfully was tested in Assam. It is set to be developed or deployed across 700 kilometers of the elephant corridors in multiple states within the next 8 months. And the estimated cost for this operation would be nearly rupees 181 crore. The minister underscored the urgency of the initiative, citing the Railway Ministry data that revealed 45 elephant fatalities due to train accidents in the past 3 years. Recently, also, we saw a tragic collision which involved a goods train claimed the lives of three elephants, including a mother and two calves, and this happened in a district in West Bengal. Vaishnavi announced plans to install these AI-powered systems in the following states, which is West Bengal, Odisha, Jharkhand, Assam, Kerala, and certain parts of Chhattisgarh and Tamil Nadu. So these are the states where we can, primarily see these elephant corridors. Kanchan Devi, she is appointed as the first woman Director General of ICFRE. A 1991 batch Indian Forest Service officer of the Madhya Pradesh cadre, Kanchan Devi has been appointed as the Director General of the Indian Council of Forestry Research or Education. She is the first woman officer to hold this post of the Premier Council under the Union Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. So let's have some statistical or stats with respect to this organization so that it may help you in your exams. So it was established in the year 1986, headquartered in Dehradun. It is an autonomous organization which operates, as we've already seen, under the Ministry of Education, Environment. I'm sorry. So Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India. It plays an important role in advising on forestry research and technologies to the Government of India, state governments, and the various stakeholders, including farmers, industries, and academia. The Indian President, she presents or presented the National Award for Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities for the year 2023. On the occasion of the International Day of Persons with Disabilities, the President, Shrimati Draupadi Murmu, in a grand ceremony in New Delhi, she bestowed the National Awards for Empowerment of Divyangjan 2023 upon 21 individuals and 9 institutions, making the total number to a batch of 30 recipients for their exemplary contributions across various fields. President, addressing the audience, reiterated the significance of prioritizing the empowerment of Divyangjan, constituting 15% of the global population. She applauded their inspirational struggles and their achievements, recognizing them as a source of inspiration for all citizens. On this prestigious occasion, 30 outstanding individuals, institutions, organizations, states, and districts They were honored for their remarkable achievements and contributions. Addressing the gathering, Dr. Virendra Kumar, who is the Union Minister of Social Justice and Empowerment, he reaffirmed Divyangjan as an essential human resource. Identity cards, they have been issued to enhance accessibility to government schemes. He further emphasized the government's commitment to providing equal opportunities, citing a 4% reservation in employment. He also highlighted the key initiatives such as the Indian Sign Language Institute and the Divyang Sports Training Center, which contribute significantly to the holistic development of Divyangjan. In 2023, applications and nominations for the awards they were invited through a centralized portal of the Ministry of Home Affairs. The Lok Sabha passes the Advocates Amendment Bill 2023. The Lok Sabha has passed the Advocates Amendment Bill 2023. This bill was introduced in the Rajya Sabha on 1st of August and later it was passed in the upper house 2 days later, which is on 3rd of August. The bill, which seeks to amend the Advocates Act of 1961, it has made the act of tout punishable and repealed certain provisions of the Legal Practitioners Act of 1879. Why was this act, repealed? Because, of course, of the reason of the fact that it has become obsolete or old. It no longer addresses the exigencies of the present day. According to the statement of object and the reasons of this bill, all the aspects which are dealt with in the Legal Practitioners Act, they are already covered under the Advocates Act, except the matter relating to touts. All sections of the Legal Practitioners Act, except sections 1, 3, and 36, they have been repealed via clause A of subsection 5 of section 50 of the Advocates Act. The bill, it aims to regulate the legal profession solely through the Advocates Act, thus abolishing the Legal Practitioners Act. However, it preserves a clause addressing touts in court, which we have already seen. So, except for these sections, all other portions of the obsolete old act, they have now been repealed. The Rajya Sabha passes the Post Office Bill to amend 125-year-old Indian Post Office Act. The Rajya Sabha on Monday, it passed the Post Office Bill of 2023. This bill seeks to repeal the 125-year-old Indian Post Office Act, and it consolidates and amends the law relating to post offices in the country. According to the proposed legislation, the central government, it may, by notification, empower any officer to intercept, open, or drain any item in the interest of security of state, friendly relations with foreign states, public order, emergency, or public safety, or under the occurrence of any contravention of any of the provisions of any law for the time being in force. The bill was introduced in the upper house during the monsoon session of the parliament. The enactment of a new law in place of the Indian Post Office Act, it is with a view to govern the functioning of the post offices in the country and to provide for a simple legislative framework to facilitate the evolution of the post offices into a network for delivery of citizen-centric services. Now we come to the international segment where this is the first update. Nepal urges Russia to halt recruitment for citizens into military following death of 6 soldiers. The Nepal government has formally requested Russia to cease the recruitment of its citizens into the Russian military, citing the recent deaths of 6 Nepali soldiers serving in Russia. The announcement came as a shock because Nepal, it has no formal military agreement with Russia, unlike its historical arrangements with countries like India and with British Army. The soldiers in question, known as the Gorkhas, they are renowned for their bravery and combat prowess. Since 1947, Gorkhas have been serving in the British and the Indian armies under a three-party agreement between the nations. However, no such agreement it exists between Nepal and Russia, and therefore this particular update it came as a shock. So there was no such agreement which exists between Nepal and Russia, which has been embroiled in a conflict with Ukraine, Russia, because we know it is with a conflict with Russia since its invasion in February last year. The Nepali government stated on Monday, revealing that six of its nationals enlisted in the Russian army had lost their lives. And with this, we come to the legal update segment, and the first update comes from the Honorable High Court of Allahabad. While refusing to quash an 11-year-old judgment in review, the High Court has held that a judgment which has attained finality, it now cannot be treated lightly by the courts. The court observed that the doctrine of finality of adjudication of a case, it often overpowers the accuracy or the correctness of a judgment. The division bench of this particular High Court, it held, and I quote, almost 11 years have passed since the impugned order came to be pronounced more than a decade ago. Finality attached to the judgments and orders passed by a court, it is not a matter to be trifled with. It is not an assumption which is available under the Constitution that all the judgments of the courts they would be correct on all accounts. Yet, for functionality to exist and order to prevail, the doctrine of finality of adjudication it often eclipses or overpowers the concerns or considerations that otherwise exist in favor of accuracy or correctness of judgments. The name of this particular matter is Dr. Arvind Kumar and three others versus State of UP for others. Now moving on to the next update from the Honorable Supreme Court, wherein the Supreme Court, while hearing an appeal against the order which was passed by the Jharkhand High Court, allowing a bail application for an accused who was charged with an attempt to murder, observed that simply asserting innocence or agreeing to participate in the trial, it is not a valid reason for granting bail to an accused in a matter which involves serious offences. The Supreme Court categorically opined, and I quote, at any rate, mere claim of innocence or undertaking to participate in the trial or contention of absence of specific allegation of any overt act, it cannot, in such circumstances, be assigned as reasons for granting bail in a case which is of serious nature. This matter was decided, or it was in fact before a division judge bench, a two-judge bench comprising Justices C.T. Ravi Kumar and P.V. Sanjay Kumar. The name of this particular case is the State of Jharkhand versus Dhananjay Gupta, alias Dhananjay Prasad Gupta. And this has brought us to an end of today's TNA. In case you want to get access to the free study materials that we curate, or the TNA slides that have been used in this video, I would highly encourage all of you to please join our Telegram channel. And for the same, you can click on the link which is given in the description, or you can scan the barcode which is provided here. Please don't forget to put your answers in the comments. Thank you for being with us.